what is up guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today and in the coming days we're going to be talking about BlizzCon 2017 announcements for World of Warcraft and what all the announcements mean for the future of World of Warcraft. Before starting to talk about announcements, I wanted to mention, Brack mentioned that the sales for Shadow the Charity Pet to help support disaster relief around the world was great. Related to this, later this month Blizzard will be selling the Shadow Plushie, whose sales through the end of the year will also go to the global disaster relief efforts. As soon as I can link to that, I'll put a link to it in the description down below so that you can go and help support that. He mentioned that World of Warcraft players have donated over $15 million to charitable causes over the years, which is just fantastic. Anyway, starting us off, World of Warcraft Classic. Little to no information is given about this currently, but Chromie is planning on taking us back to vanilla World of Warcraft. How she'll be doing this and when she'll be doing this haven't really been talked about yet, but she made a nice little jab at Brack.
Someone once said that you can't go home again, but they lacked vision. And a temporal discombobulator.
Which, well, when we look at that after what Brack said.
Have you ever thought about adding servers for previous expansions as they were then?
No. And by the way, you don't want to do that either. You think you do, but you don't. Remember when you had to like spam cities and say, need a tank, need a tank, need a tank during the Burning Crusade days? You don't remember that because now you just push a button that says go to the dungeon. You don't want to do that.
Moving on from there, we have the new expansion announcement. With Sargeras gone and a gaping hole in Azeroth, the battle for Azeroth can now commence. This expansion seems to be themed around essentially trolls and sausages. With this expansion we get to level 120, we get new dungeons and raids, both of which expected, but now we get allied races, Heart of Azeroth, Uncharted Island expeditions, and lastly PvP updates and warfronts. I'll be making a video dedicated to the allied races, island expeditions, as well as PvP including warfronts, but for now let's talk about the PvE content. Starting the features overview, we see Teldrassil being burned down and potentially taken by the Horde, and starting the cinematic trailer we see Undercity being attacked and potentially taken by the Alliance. The point of this is to stage Eastern Kingdoms as the Alliance continent and Kalimdor as the Horde continent. After this, we're shown two brand new continents, Kul'Tiras and Zandalar. Kul'Tiras is the Alliance continent with 3 zones in it, Stormsong Valley, Tiragarde Sound, and Drustvar. Zandalar is the Horde continent with 3 zones in it as well. Zuldazar, Vol'Dun, and Nazmir are the 3 zones for this continent. Kul'Tiras is a continent whose art style and direction is very similar to what we see with Gilneas. It's very dark and gritty, just overall very gothic. I personally love this. The continent is also generally under fire from pirates. The first zone we're told about is Tiragarde Sound. This contains the city Boralis, which is the Kul'Tiras capital as well as the Alliance hub. Tiragarde Sound is led by Catherine Proudmoore, who is Jaina's mother. She was explicitly noted by Alex to not be a dreadlord. Also worth mentioning is that Tiragarde is particularly under attack by pirates, as Alex mentioned. The second zone we're told about is Drustvar, which is ruled by Lord and Lady Waycrest. They supply arms and, according to Alex, sausages to the rest of Kul'Tiras. They've supposedly been suspiciously absent from recent affairs, this leading to their supply of arms and sausages being cut off. It's also noted that the land here is cursed. The third zone we're told about is Stormsong Valley, which is ruled by House Stormsong. This zone is devoted to the sea and accordingly provides ships to the rest of Kul'Tiras. The supply of their ships needs to be restored as it's been cut off by dark forces and, curiously enough, Quibblors. One thing worth mentioning outside of all this is that the zones are inhabited by these monster hunter humans, who are beefy, stocky versions of humans. In the allied races, it's mentioned that the framework for this is in place to allow for more allied races in the future. That being said, I feel very confident in saying that we will likely get these Kul'Tirans as an allied race, a subrace of humans, in the future. Zandalar is a continent which is inhabited by dinosaurs, Zandalari trolls, and blood trolls. Zandalar as a whole is supposedly known for having powerful naval forces as well, similar to Kul'Tiras. The continent is also in turmoil from the leaders of each zone, again similar to Kul'Tiras. Also, nothing was mentioned about them, but these turtle people were shown on one of the slides for Zandalar, and they look like they might use the Tuskar animation skeleton. I'm excited to see what this race's presence is in Zandalar. The first zone mentioned is Zuldazar, which is said to be the capital of Zandalar. They didn't say a specific city which was the capital, they just said Zuldazar was the capital, which I thought was curious. Anyway, this is also the Horde hub. Zuldazar is ruled by King Rastakhan and his daughter Princess Talanji. With this, there seems to be an uprising in the capital city, which you'll have to investigate. Furthermore, blood trolls attack Zuldazar from Nazmir. Also, there are these long-necked dinosaurs like mini brontosauruses. These would make absolutely awesome mounts, I just have to say. Moving on, we have Vol'Dun, which is, well, essentially the Barrens. The zone used to be a lush jungle, but is a desert now. Criminals are sent here from the other parts of Zandalar, and the criminals usually die. Also, here we can find Volpera, a race of humanoid fennec foxes. There's not much more else needed to be talked about here, but I'd like to go over some stuff I'd like to see with what's shown here. Of all the newly shown humanoid races, I really hope that the Volpera is something that becomes an allied race. Also shown is the Sethrak, a race of humanoid snake-like people who inhabit Zandalar. This is another race I want to touch on for the sake of allied races. I'll talk about this more in my video about the allied races, but essentially if we were to ever get a Naga-esque race to play, I don't think that we'd get regular Naga, but rather something more along the lines of this race. They also showed two creatures I wanted to say would make very cool mounts. They showed these bony cellophane creatures, which I think would be great mounts. You can actually see them being ridden later in the video shown. Another creature I could see being a mount later on are these hippopotamus creatures. I don't know that I personally would want to ride them, but they seem like something Blizzard would add as a mount, similar to the Meadow Stompers in Warlords of Draenor. The last zone they showed was Nazmir. Before the Cataclysm, this zone was a lush forest, but after the Cataclysm has become a swampland, which is a great region for blood trolls to inhabit. You are going to befriend and work with the Loa here, including Wansambi and Kragwa, the latter of which being needed in order to acquire a frog mount, according to Alex. Part of the goal in this zone is to uncover Titan secrets. It's not explained much as to what that means, but I'm sure it'll be interesting. I also wanted to mention again, there are these little armless troll creatures, not sure what they're called. I think these would be extremely cool mounts. Same goes for these undead dinosaur creatures not 10 seconds later. One thing also mentioned was that we'll finally be exploring Vol'Dun's story. Where or how this is done is not mentioned. Next up is the leveling. Players will of course be leveling to 120 in this expansion, but more specifically, they will exclusively level in their faction zones and dungeons. So the Alliance to Kul'Tiras and the Horde to Zandalar. The 100 to 110 level scaling tech from Legion will be used here for 110 to 120. I don't think this will surprise anyone, but it was confirmed to be used. So you can level in the zone in the order you like. At 120, however, players can go to the opposite faction's content and consume content there. Including with this is the War Campaign, which is essentially the Garrison or Class Order Hall systems we've seen, but on faction level. Again, I don't think this will surprise anyone, these did extremely well in Legion. For levels 1 to 60, you'll be going to classic zones in generally the order you like and won't be rushed to skip zones. This is because the scaling tech will be brought to the rest of the world. The main difference is that the minimum level for each zone in classic World of Warcraft will persist, so a player couldn't, say, create a character and run straight to Plaguelands and start questing. Similar to this, it seems expansions will be paired together for leveling in whatever order you like. Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King are both 60 to 80, and Cataclysm and Mists of Pandaria are both 80 to 90. This wasn't mentioned, but I suspect that Warlords of Draenor and Legion will be lumped together like this. As far as the scaling goes, the leveling experience and rewards from quests and dungeons will scale to your level properly. As opposed to most of the rest of this, the level scaling in the rest of the game will be coming in 7.3.5 rather than 8.0. Another thing which was not mentioned in the panels but was shown, and later confirmed, is that item levels and by result stats are going to get squished. Shown in the Heart of Azeroth explanation was a level 110 Shaman with an item level of 185 and stats between 1 and 3000. I am, and plenty others I'm sure, are excited to get this update. Alright, onto dungeons and raids. Right off the bat, we've got 10 dungeons. 4 faction-specific dungeons will be available through leveling. All 10 are available at 120, however. The Alliance gets Freehold in Tiragarde Sound, which is a cliffside outlaw hideaway dungeon. The Horde gets Zuldazar in Zuldazar. This is a tomb of Zandalari kings, but trolls are bringing undead dinosaurs and undead dinosaurs. Those are the only ones we have real details for, besides the last one I'll mention. The rest are Tol Dagor, Waycrest Manor, Shrine of the Storm, Siege of Borealis, Temple of Setherless, the Underrot, King's Rest, and Kazan. Kazan, being the Goblin Zone, is there because the Goblins are definitely interested in getting in on the Azerite and cashing in on the value of that stuff. For raids, we only have one mentioned and one boss of another mentioned. The first raid is going to be Ultir Halls of Control. There will be 8 bosses and a Titan quarantine facility. This raid contains the source of Zandalar's corruption. Another thing which was mentioned is that a raid after Uldir contains Queen Ajara as a raid boss. It wasn't mentioned if this was the next raid or the final raid of the expansion, or whether she is the final boss of the raid or not, but it is mentioned that we'll be fighting her. That all being said, that is the announcement of Battle for Azeroth and related features, aside from allied races, Heart of Azeroth, Uncharted Island expeditions, and lastly PvP updates and warfronts. I'll be making a video covering each of these topics individually in depth. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope it was useful to you. Remember to leave a like if you enjoyed the video and get subscribed if you're new here or if you want to see the rest of my BlizzCon coverage. Also, be sure to leave a comment if you have any thoughts you'd like to share about the new expansions and updates. That being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day and I'll see you next time.